I had something quite amazing happen to me today. Something that has never happened to me before, and I don't know of anybody that this has happened to. But I took my wife and my father-in-law out to lunch. Actually, he was buying lunch for us. And we went to a restaurant, and there was this old guy who was kind of walking around talking to people at tables. And he walked over to our table, and he proceeded to dole out 20s onto the table for us to buy us lunch. A big stack of 20s. And then he went to the table across the way and laid out a $100 bill on their table and moved on through the restaurant. He was buying everybody lunch. And I was just flabbergasted. I didn't know what to think. I said, well, thank you very, very much. And then something also very interesting happened. Everybody was blown away in the restaurant that received this gift of money for their lunch. And everybody started talking to each other. It was like all of a sudden, everybody started walking up to each other's tables and saying, have you ever had that happen before? Do you know who that guy is? What's going on here? And one person did know who he was, and she said he was very, very wealthy, and he figured it was his time in his life to give back. So anyway, I thought I'd like to share that story with you. Now on to today's story. Oh my gosh, I'm bidding a removal that is it's a hairy one. All right, here's the story. I have worked on this tree in the past. There used to be a deck that covered the entirety of this root system. They took the deck out so we could inspect it, and this is what we are finding. The base of the tree is pretty decayed. In some areas you can see underneath all the roots, and you'll see a little bit further on that the underside of some of these roots are completely decayed as well. This is an enormous valley oak tree. It's probably solid 5 feet across at the trunk, and it is about 100 feet tall with a spread of about 100 feet. This thing is just enormous. There's asphalt all the way around there, so we could drop small stuff, but any wood would damage the asphalt, so everything would have to be roped down. Unfortunately, the top of the tree has about 10 cables up there, which is something else to think about, because if you cut a cable, that may be supporting the branch, and the branch may fail as soon as you cut it. So it's a thinking game figuring out how you would do something like this. Access for a crane is not very good. It's a real tight working area. So I'm guessing I'm going to have to bring this whole thing down by roping it. Everything has to be roped down. And I don't know if they want to keep this raised well or not. I would imagine that they want to fill it in and break it up and make it a solid driveway. But I've got to get it all the way down, and there's probably enough decay in there that it's going to be dulling my chainsaw. Not to mention all the metal in the tree. Whenever I get a big tree like this, I am always finding remnants from past workmen, either from the cables or the bolts or possibly nails. Sometimes there's embedded objects in these old ancient trees. I found horseshoes nailed to trees that they grew around and absorbed before. So anyway, I'm going to ask you guys what you think. How would you take this tree down, and what would you charge? And there's those cables. There's about 10 of them. All right, thanks a lot. Leave some notes in the comments. I want to hear your thoughts.